Good afternoon, YouTube. How are we doing? We are still in a period of lockdown here in the UK. Therefore, my hair is that bit messier and that bit longer since I last produced one of these videos. So still waiting for the hairdressers to open. I think it's going to be a couple of months yet. So hence the lovely long hair. Right, today what I wanted to talk about was replacing physical servers with something else basically. And when I was thinking there's so many different options out there, but in this video I'm going to talk about replacing the role of a server using offerings from Microsoft and specifically their 365 platform. So that's the perspective I'm coming from. I know many of you will have used other services from Google and perhaps Dropbox, and there's lots of different stuff out there, but I'm gonna go down the route of saying here's what's on a server, here's the 365 equivalent. Okay, so first of all, let's start at the beginning. What is a physical server? So a physical server is basically a box, much like a computer, normally sits in the corner of the office or in a specific server or network room in your office. And in very general terms, its most common purpose is to share files amongst the business so that everybody can work on the same files and access them from one central location. Historically, they've done email services as well, so it might host and look after the email for the business, much less common these days, and we'll come on to email in a second. And then other things that it might do are things like share printers for the office. It might host a database product or an accounts package of some kind. They're all common tasks, common things for a server to do. But yes, generally, physical box sat in the office. And again, people may want to pick me up on, well, yes, they can be virtual now. I'm fully aware of that. I'm just using the physical server analogy for this video. So yeah, physical box which sits in the office, central location for the business to operate a lot of its IT systems from. So let's break down each of them things and talk about what you can do instead of having that physical box. So the quick and easy one is email. If your business is still running email on a physical box, first of all, wow. And why are you doing that? Seriously, you don't want to be doing that at all, in my opinion. So yeah, the straightforward thing and the most common thing people use the likes of Office 365 for is for email. So the straightforward thing is shift your email into Office 365 email services and off you go. There is no good reason I can possibly think of for you to be hosting your own email server in 2020. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. By moving to something like Office 365, your email is going to be that much more secure. You've got all the options around compliance and encryption at your disposal. It's always going to be up to date. It's quick, it's easy, it's reliable. So there's no physical box going down in the office and then you've got no email coming in. That just doesn't happen. So yeah, you've really got to, if nothing else, you've got to get your email into a cloud platform, 100%, no two ways about it, no other option to be discussed here. Okay, so let's move on to files. So if you're using a physical server to share files in your office, what can you do with them? Well, there's different offerings as to what you can do with the files using a combination of OneDrive and SharePoint. All these products are to play the role of the server to aid you in sharing files. It allows you to put them still into a central repository. It still allows you to set permissions. So for example, you might have a finance folder, which only the finance people can have access to. You can still do all that stuff, but there's a lot of added benefits, which I know you can still get these benefits with a server too, but you will get version control. You will get a basic backup facility within that as well. So it's easy enough to deploy and move the files off something physical into a 365 environment using OneDrive and SharePoint. There's a lot to be said for that. A real big benefit, which is kind of on topic given the current COVID-19 situation, is the remote access to your files becomes much easier, in my opinion. Traditionally, with a physical server on site somewhere, you'll need to connect to a VPN and then access the files, which again isn't that tricky to do, not that tricky to set up, but you can actually eliminate that step as well, because if you've put your files into a 365, you can access them from anywhere at any time, either just using the same method you would use if you were in the office by just browsing for the files, but there's also like a web portal you can access the files from as well. And there's lots of options which are much easier, in my opinion, to access the files. Using the COVID-19 situation as an example for us and our business, when all of the team went off to work from home, it just wasn't a problem in terms of accessing files and email, because we were already using 365 for these things. They just fired up their computers at home, clicked on the files, clicked on email, and that was it. There was nothing to do. There was no additional setup required whatsoever. And likewise, if we were using a physical server and there was a power cut at the office and the server hadn't powered itself back on when the power was restored, we'd be stuck. It would require somebody to come into the office to turn the physical box back on. It makes no sense whatsoever. So that's a real key benefit, and that's the most common thing you get with servers is the email and the files. Putting them into 365 makes perfect sense to me in 2020. There still could be reasons for a server, having said all that. I am a big fan, to be brutally honest, of not using a server unless it's absolutely necessary. And why might it be necessary for you, if I'm playing devil's advocate here? Now, it could be that you have a vast amount of data, and therefore having some local storage might make sense. You might have it where your internet connectivity is terrible, really badly slow. Really, you should address that in its own right, but therefore using a physical server in your office when people are working at the office will be much quicker than relying on the internet connection. If your internet connection is mega slow and terrible, that would be a reason to still consider a physical server. Like I said, I much prefer the cloud stuff. I much prefer 365 and services like that. But I also will always look at all the options here. So that could be a reason. Another reason might be using specific database applications, and certain accounts packages might be require you to have a server. Now, again, there's an argument here, and I think I've done a video on this in the past, is moving for example, your accountancy software into a cloud-based service in its own right. And likewise, if you're running a database of any kind, there's more than likely a cloud-based service for that as well. But if for whatever reason you can't do that, then a physical server still could make sense for your business. Another example might also be, you've always got to consider the scenario of the particular organisation. So I've seen it recently where a charity has secured some funding, but that funding was purely for a one-off project rather than an ongoing monthly thing. So it made sense for them to use some of that towards a new server. They already had an old server, and whilst again I would much prefer to have them cloud-based, that would increase their monthly costs, and to them as a charity, they're always conscious of things like that. They could get funding for the server as a one-off cost. So I just said to them, look, it makes sense for you guys as a charity in this particular scenario to have that server, because it's not going to cost you any money essentially, because you can get funding for it as a one-off project. So that's a strange set of circumstances, but it made sense. So don't get me wrong here, I'm not saying never ever use a server. I'm just saying personally, I'd always look at not using a server first, and then working back from there. If there is some apparent reasons, the terrible bandwidth, the vast amount of data, a kind of finance reason, then fair enough. That's completely fine. But overall, you really should be considering your options by not deploying a server first and seeing where that's at. Personally, I think you will be in a much stronger position from a productivity point of view, from a security point of view, from a flexibility point of view. All these things, you're much better off using a monthly service, and you will be much more scalable using a monthly service like Office 365 as well. As your business grows or even decreases in size, it can flex with you. And again, that's a key benefit for me. I really like that. So hopefully that's given you a bit of food for thought there. Always look at the solution without the server first and then weigh things up. But yeah, using Office 365 in very general terms here, given the current climate because of the COVID-19 situation, has been brilliant for us. Absolutely brilliant as a business. We've continued to work as normal, basically. Just continue to work as normal because it's that easy. It's just no drama whatsoever. It's secure, it's reliable, quick. So yeah, do consider it. That's my recommendation. Do consider that option. If this video has been useful to you in any way, shape or form, please do smash the like button. It really helps grow our channel. Please do subscribe to the channel. We're trying to release new content all the time. Likewise, please do comment on the video. If you've got a question or you'd like to throw your opinion my way, please do so. I encourage comments. I will always try and get back to people as soon as I can. So please do. And likewise, below this video will be all the links to connect with me on LinkedIn and on Twitter and on Instagram. So that's it for today. Stay safe, everyone, and I'll see you soon on the next video. Bye.